What's good, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube? It's your boy Willie way back another sports content video of the NBA. In this sports content video of the NBA, I'm gonna be talking about four throwback Eastern Conference teams, and that was in the 2010s. That was facing LeBron. So in the title you obviously see it says something about LeBron. It says they were finals caliber teams, but LeBron was playing in the East. And my friend sent me this because he was like, "See, I told you, bro, LeBron had come." So I'm gonna talk about these four teams, and I'm gonna see if they was finals caliber or not. And y'all can tell me in the comments if y'all think these teams were finals caliber. So the first team we're gonna be talking about is the 2010 to 11 Bulls. They won 62 games. They only lost 20, and D Rose won MVP this year. And what's it called? They was the first seed. So though I think this team was finals caliber, I felt like they was one piece away of being a finals caliber team. Like they were a great team, but they were just missing something on that team. And what's it called? It was another like scorer that could take pressure off D Rose. But this team was pretty damn good. They just needed one more person. But this team had obviously D Rose. He was a superstar in the making before the injuries. Carlos Boozer was a star, but he was getting old. Taj Gibson was a solid role play. He knew his job. Kyle Korver, one of the great shooters of all time. Great role player. CJ Watson was a great backup point guard in his time. Joakim Noah, he was a superstar in his role. Even though he's not an offensive player, he gives you playmaking and defense. Because back then centers didn't really need to score like that anyway. But Joakim Noah was very important to that Bulls team. Probably the most impactful player on that team outside of D Rose. But Luol Deng, he was like a semi-star. I feel like Luol Deng could have been a semi-star because Luol Deng was pretty good, and he's low-key underrated. But yeah. Anyway, Roddy Brewer was okay. Keith Bogans was okay. I ain't gonna lie. Every time I seen Omer Asik play, like I was never like, oh yo, he's nice. Like I ain't gonna lie, he was ass to me, but he was probably solid. But anyway, do I think this Bulls team was finals caliber? Most definitely. I feel like obviously if LeBron was not in Miami, they definitely could have made the finals. But, you know, I would say this team was finals caliber. I just feel like they just needed one more piece in order to make the finals. So yeah, next team, the 2012 to 13 Knicks, they won 54 games. They only lost 28. They was the oldest team in the NBA. And, Melo, superstar, Stoudemire was a star, you know, damn near superstar at times, but, them injuries kept piling up and he kept declining as a player. So him and Melo couldn't mesh at all because Stoudemire barely had time on the court to even mesh with Melo. But, this team was pretty good, They definitely needed like another guy to take pressure off Melo. I don't think this team was finals caliber, but they definitely was playoff caliber. If they had another star next to Melo, they definitely could have been finals caliber, depending how the team looked and depending how they play offense. But Tyson Chandler, one of the greatest defenders in his era, you know, he's gonna, get the rebounds, guard the paint, catch lobs. Chris Copeland, good shooter, good, cool role player. Yeah, I said John Chris Copeland, damn. Raymond Felton was a solid point guard at his time. Jason Kidd was, he a legend, but, he was 40 years old with the Knicks, but he was still solid. K.M. Martin was solid still. Steve Novak, great shooter. Paolo Prigioni was like a 40-year-old rookie, but he was okay. Iman Shumpert, great role player. J.R. Smith, bucket getter. So, yeah, this team was pretty dope to watch around that time, but they wasn't finals caliber. But, yeah, next team, we're going to be talking about the 2014 to 15 Hawks. So, people, shit on this team a lot for for them losing to LeBron James, in 4 games. But this team was pretty damn good. It's just, I don't think they was finals caliber because they didn't have a real number one option. You know what I'm saying? Because not Damari Carroll, wow. Paul Millsap and Al Horford, they was on the same level. Because one day it'd be like, yo, this Paul Millsap team, and then it'd be another day, yo, this is Horford team. But sometimes it'd be like, yo, Jeff Teague looked like the best player on the team, or Kyle Korver at times. So that was the problem with that team, in my opinion. They didn't know, they didn't have a go-to guy. They won just they the games they won was strictly as a team. Like it was never like, yo, Horford carried, yo, Millsap carried, Jeff Teague or Corver carried. Like, nah, like every time they won, everybody was eating, even the bench. That's why they won so many games, and that's why nobody expected them to even beat as good, as a team. So it was a good team, but like I said, they not finals caliber. I feel like if they would have had a go-to guy, then it's like it's 50-50 because, nobody on that team is a superstar. They had Kyle Korver, obviously Paul Millsap, Jeff Teague, Horford, Millsap obviously. DeMar Carroll was a great role player. Kent Bazemore was a solid role player. Shelvin Mack was a solid backup point guard. Muscala was a good backup center. Dennis Schroeder was nice, still nice. Mike Scott, great role player. Thabo Sefolosha, great role player. Feel me? Like, in that backup center, they also had Pero Antic. He was a good ass role player. Like they had, like their team was just full of great role players that knew what they were supposed to do. That's why they won so many games. But yeah, that's my take on the Hawks. Yeah, I don't think they would change the caliber because they didn't have a number one guy, and then they didn't have a go-to guy. So yeah, the next team is the 2013 to 14 Pacers. They won 56 games and they lost 26. So you know, I feel like this team was championship caliber. I feel like they was literally one piece away. But honestly, I felt like if Roy Hibbert actually was aggressive and panned out, he could have gave the Heat or any team in the league a problem because David West was damn near on his last legs. This was like the last juice he had in his career. He was still pretty good, but he wasn't like Pelicans David West. PG was on the rise, because PG was pretty young around this time. They had Chris Copeland was on this team too. That's funny. Danny Granger got traded for Evan Turner. I felt like they probably should have just kept him because he was a great vet. But hey, who knows? George Hill, great point guard for that team. Solomon Hill, solid. Ian Mahimi, he was a great backup center. I remember Ian Mahimi. That's crazy. Wow. Louis Scola, one of the greatest role players people don't even know about. And oh yeah, Evan Turner already brought him up. Lance Stevenson, I don't even gotta say too much. You feel me? Everybody know Lance Stevenson, cool ass nigga. That nigga was nice. C.J. Watson was on this team as well, and yeah, David West. So yeah, I felt like if the Pacers would have got that one last piece, they could have made it hard for a lot of teams. So yeah, I believe this Pacers team was definitely championship caliber, but honestly the Heat was in the way. If the Heat was not in the if the Heat didn't have LeBron and D Wade was just cooking with Bosh, then yeah, they probably most likely could make the finals. And I could probably say that for the for most of these teams, honestly. Most of these teams really all was really finals caliber outside of the Hawks, in my opinion, like I said already, and the Knicks. But yeah, the Bulls Pacers most definitely could have easily been championship team. So yeah, that's my take for these four teams and about them facing LeBron. So yeah, let me know what y'all think in the comments about what I said. I'm out.